Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you how to create Fillout forms with Subforms. Imagine an order form where you can select products from a dropdown, add quantities, and capture all the details of the order in one go. It's a super simple way to capture detailed information without overcomplicating the setup. So without further ado, let's dive in. All right, so as always, we are back here in the Marboard. And to be honest, this is going to be a part Airtable tutorial and a part Fillout tutorial, because in Fillout, we are going to be creating the form, the order form, but that information has to live somewhere. It can, of course, live in Fillout, but in this setup, especially when we are dealing with a order form, you need to source the products from a location. And for that, we need to rely on something like Airtable. So I'm just going to go one step at a time. We'll start with the Airtable setup. Then we'll talk about how to add information to the Airtable tables directly. And then we will move on to the Fillout form, where we will be able to do the same thing, but publicly with a link that can be shared with your customers, right? Okay, so what do we have going on in Airtable? So the first step, or the first table rather, is the products table. So this table hosts all the information about the products that you offer, because we're creating an order form in this scenario. And of course, this setup can be used for many different things, which we'll talk about later. But in this particular scenario, we are creating an order form. And for the order, the customer or the user need to be able to select some products, right? So this table, the products table, is, as the name explains, is going to host all our products. So if we flip over to the Airtable tab, this is our first table, the products table. And here I have already added a few dummy products. So we have the keyboard, the mouse, the monitor. We have a field for category. And then we are also tracking the cost of this product as well as the SKU, right? So that's the products table. Now, the second table that I'm going to talk about is the orders table. And again, as the name says, it's the orders table, and this is going to host all of our orders that are placed by our customers. So in the end, it will host some information like the order ID, the name of the customer, the total value of the order, and the status of the order. And so if we go over to Airtable and we look at the orders table, so here I already have a dummy order, order 9. Customer name is John Doe. Here's the customer email. We have the total, and we have the order status. So to get this total, we of course rely on these items. So these items currently just says 19, 20, 21, which doesn't really mean a lot. But if we expand this record, we can see that here we have the mechanical keyboard, and they ordered one of those, 2 of the monitors, and one of the, actually it's ordered twice, so it's 3 monitors in total. But you get the idea that we have multiple items added to this order, and then this is how we are able to derive the total. So that's all well and good, but then we also need to talk about the third table, which is the line items, or what I'm calling the cart table. So why do we need this? Because we already have the products and we already have the orders. And if we think about it, we could just link our orders table directly to the products table and then call it a day. But there's a problem with this. We will not be able to achieve exactly what we need. And the best way to explain that would be through an example. So if we go back here, and if we try to start a new order, so currently we're just operating directly in Airtable, and we will eventually move to Fillout, where the customers or the users will be placing their orders. But let's just talk about behind the scenes setup for now. So if I start a new order, and let's say I'm just going to give it my name, Sahil Khosla, and give it an email. So I'll say sk.ncp@gmail.com. And so the order started, order ID 11, we have the name, the email. But now we need to add the items, right? So the items are nothing but the products. But here is an interesting situation that comes up, which is, how do I tell this order that I need, for example, 2 keyboards and 3 mouse? Like, how? There's no way to add this information here, right? Because if I just link it to the products table, all it's going to give me is, okay, which product? So actually we can go ahead and try that. So if I link this to the products table and link to another record, select products and create field, what's going to happen is when I click on this, is it just asks me for the product. So if I select this, it just selects mechanical keyboards. There's no way for me to enter how many mechanical keyboards. Or if I want to add more line items or more products to my order, like for example, the monitor, like there's no way for me to provide the quantity information. So this link alone is not enough. So we can get rid of this link, as we have proven with this field here. So let me just delete that. So we keep things clean, and we will also delete the reverse field here, delete. So that's why, because of that problem, we introduced this third table where we will be able to provide the additional information that we need. For example, how many of these we need, or even if we need to leave a comment about that particular line item, we can do all sorts of things. So the setup is that each order is linked to line items, and each order can have many line items. So it's a one-to-many relationship, or I guess we can say many-to-one relationship, if we want to keep the order correct. And then each line item is also linked to a product, and this is going to be a one-to-one relationship. So each line item will only be linked to one product. And this here in the middle is also known as the junction table. So now if we go back to Airtable, what we can do is, since we already have this order started, we can go to this third table, the cart table. And here, what we can do is we can select the order. So order 11, and now we select the product. So let's say the keyboard, and here we can enter the quantity. So I want 3 of the keyboards, and this is automatically going to pull the cost from the mechanical keyboard product entry. So the keyboard is $120. So if we come here, so I have 3 keyboards for 120, and this is my total $360. So now if we go back to the orders table for order 11, we can see that it already knows the total, and it already knows the line item that I added and how many of those I added. So if I open this, it says line item number 22, linked to order 11, this is the product, and this is the quantity. So this is how we have the setup, and this is what this middle table, this junction table, is what allows us to create this multiple line item with quantities setup. Okay, very good. So let's just complete this and add one more, and you can of course do it from here. If I click on plus in Airtable, oops, try again. Or maybe we can do it from here, add record. And if you, by default, it just shows you the existing line items. But if you're creating a new line item, you just click on this plus button here. And then from here, you can select the product. So let's say I want to do a wireless router, and I want 2 of those. And then if I close this, go back here, the wireless router is already linked to my order, and I have the total here, and that's it. So far, we did this in the backend from Airtable, right? So now that we understand the setup, now that this is clear what's going on with these 3 line items, we can move over to Fillout. So with Fillout, we actually need to consider something similar, but not as complicated. What we're going to have in Fillout is we're definitely going to have this order form. But here we can collect information about the order. So things that live in the orders table, which is things like the customer name, the order ID, the customer email, and stuff like that. But for these, we need to do something else, and that is where subforms come into the equation. Okay, so let's clean this up a little bit just so it's clear. I'm going to move this here to the order, under the orders table, because this is going to be linked to this. And then what we are going to do is we are going to create a subform, and this is what will track our line items or the cart. So this will be linked to the cart table, and then this itself is going to be linked to the form as well. Or actually not linked, this is a subform. So what we should do is we should reduce the size of this and make this a little bigger and move this inside of it. So this is a subform, so it will live within the primary form, the order form, and then the line items themselves will source the products from the products table, as we will see in Fillout. So this will become super clear once we go over to Fillout. Okay, so with this context behind us, let's switch to Fillout. If you haven't used Fillout before, I have a full deep dive on Fillout in a separate video that I did earlier, so I will link that below as well. But assuming that you have worked with Fillout a little bit, and even if you haven't, it's pretty self-explanatory. As I walk through this form, it will become pretty obvious. So currently, we're looking at the Fillout dashboard, or the homepage, you can call it. And the way you start a form is by clicking on this button, make a Fillout. And for now, I'm just going to select a blank form. And I like to use a dark theme, so I'll choose that. Click on create form, and we'll call it the order collection form or something like that. Very good. Continue. So since we are going to be collecting information in Fillout, but in the end, we want our information to be stored in Airtable, we need to connect our Fillout to Airtable. And the way you do that, and actually I suggest doing it before you add any questions to your form, because once you connect it to Airtable, then it automatically knows what fields exist in your Airtable, and it will allow you to create questions very quickly. So we click on integrate, And right away in the popular apps, Airtable is number 2. So we select that. And if you don't already have an integration between your Fillout and Airtable, at this step, it is going to ask you to do that. But since I already have one, I actually have quite a few, I will select Airtable all bases and click on next. And it's complaining. So let's go back and try the different one. I always get confused which one is the working one. Let's try, okay, working integration next. Okay, there we go. So that one works. And here it's asking me the name of my base. And the name of the base is just Fillout, pretty conveniently. So let's type Fillout and select that. Very good. And now it's asking me which table you want to store the responses in. Now remember, if you go back to the Miro board, what we are building is the order form. And this is the parent form. This is not the subform, this is the parent form. And we want the order information to go into the orders table, just like we did here, order 11, name, email, and all that good stuff. So that's what I'm going to select here. I will select the orders table, continue. And now it's asking me, are you creating a new order or you're updating an existing order, which is, by the way, a pretty cool feature that Fillout supports. But in this particular case, we are just going to use the create record option. So click on finish setup. And now Airtable is in green, connected, submissions are synced to orders. Go back to the edit tab. So notice what happens. In the left here, Airtable now knows what fields exist in my Fillout now knows what fields exist in my Airtable base or Airtable table. And based on that, it has already shown me some different options that I can add to my form. So the first thing I'm going to add right away is I'm just going to place a heading here and I'll call it the order collection form or something like that. So that's just a static heading. Next thing I'm going to ask for is the customer name. So notice how it already knows that there's a customer name field, in Airtable, so customer name field. So it automatically is suggesting that, hey, it's a text field. Why don't you go ahead and add that here? So we add it here, customer name, and on the right here, we are going to mark that as required. Awesome. Next thing we are going to ask is the customer's email. So again, it knows that this field exists in Airtable and it's suggesting me that, hey, you can drop an email field to collect this piece of information. So drag that here, and we are also going to make this required. Very good. So that is the basic information that we need to collect from our customer to start the order. Now, this is where the next interesting thing comes in, which is to add the actual line items. So what I'm going to do is let's take this and put that on a cover page. So we'll call it the cover, and here we'll say order collection form. We can leave the description out. So we have a cover, we have page number 1, which I'm going to rename to customer info. And I'm going to add a new page here in the bottom, and I'm going to call it and we have to select the type of the page. So again, it's going to be a form page because we're still in details collection mode. So click on form, and this page I'm going to call line items. Continue, and then we'll get to the ending in a second. So the customer will come in here and we can see what the customer will see by clicking on this preview button. So it starts as order collection form. And of course you can add bells and whistles here, an image, some description and all that good stuff. Click on start. And right away, it's asking me for the customer name and customer email. So I guess what we can do in the page is we can just change that to name. It doesn't impact the field in Airtable. It's just a display label. So we'll just say name and email. And here for the heading, we can also type general information or something like that. Or contact information, I guess is more appropriate. Very good. So we got contact information, name, email, perfect. And now we go into the line items page. And here, again, I'm going to add a heading, and I will call this add or select products. Select products. Very good. Now this is where that interesting bit comes in. To select the products, I could add, just like I showed you in Airtable, we could just connect it to the products table, but that's not going to cut it. So what we really need to connect it to is the cart table or the line items table, right? So here, since the orders table is already connected to the items table, Fillout is aware, which is the awesome thing about Fillout. It already knows that there's an items field which is linked to the cart table or the line items table. So if I put this here, notice what's going to happen. It's going to give us an option to add, right? Now let's click on preview and see what we get. So start, test, next. It's going to complain it's not a valid email, test@test.com. There we go, next. And now it says select products. So when I click on add, it's going to fetch everything from the line items table. So it takes a few seconds because it's not pre-fetch and we're in preview mode. There we go. So what it's doing is it's pulling up all the line items from various orders. So like this is from order 9, this is from order 11, but that's not what we want. We don't want our customers to know the existing line items from various random orders that exist in our database. That's not what we want, but this is what it does by default. And this would have been fine if you were doing something like, if you were linking it directly to, say, the products table. But since we're linking it to the line items table and the line items have to be created per order, that's the functionality we want to enable. So to do that, we're going to go back into the build mode. And when I click on this field and click on the settings, on the right here, there's quite a few settings that we need to work with. So the first setting, of course, is can select multiple, because in the order, the customer can add multiple items. So we are going to enable that, can select multiple. It is a required field because without adding any items, the order is not complete. And then there is this interesting option called create records. So notice when we created our order in Airtable, we had to go into the cart table or the line items table and actually enter new records. So I had to add the mechanical keyboard, I had to add the wireless router, and that is exactly what we want our customers to be able to do in the form. So when we go back here, we will go to the create records field and we will say that yes, the customers can create new records. So we enable that. And this is going to further enable quite a few options. So the first one of interest that jumps out right away is that only show new records. So we only want our customers to be able to see the line items or the records that they themselves have created, right? We don't want them to see the line items from other orders. So we will say only show new records. And there's other information that we'll get to in a second, but the most important one is the edit record creation form. Now, this is where Fillout is going to create a subform for us. So that subform is what we showed here in this little box. So go back here, click on edit record creation form, and this is going to start altogether a new form that will live within our parent form. So for this form, we can give it its own heading. So I'll say, let's move it to the top. We'll say select product and quantity. And it automatically added a couple of fields for me. Submission ID, we don't need, so I'm going to delete that. And then this one, this is a number field, I imagine. Let's see. Yeah, it's a number field, so that's perfect. And for the product, since in our table, if we go here, our product is linked to the products table, it is going to show us this list in the form. So if you go here, click on add, we can see the list of products being pulled in from the products table. Now, here is showing us some information by default, but we can choose what information to show and not show. So if you click here on the right, click on product, click on the settings button. Oh, it was already open. In the display, let me see. So create records is going to be turned off. Edit records is also going to be turned off. There's a setting, maybe it's in the advanced. Okay, there we go. So in advanced, we can select what fields to show. So we can show them the name, we can definitely show them the category, and of course we have to show them the cost because that's how they will know how much the product is going to cost. And then we can also show, or we can select a field to search by. So if our list was too long, we can allow them to search by either name or maybe even with, I guess we can only select one, but otherwise I would have also allowed this queue if we had multiple options. So we'll stick with name for now. And then filters is interesting because let's say if you were maintaining in your products table which stuff is in stock and which stuff isn't, you could filter it down to only available items. But since we don't have that, we won't select any filter. So here they select the product. So we'll say select product. And here we will say provide quantity. And for this, we can do some validation. Not necessary, and then product is also good. Well, I guess we could do, let's see, condition, validation rule, the provided quantity is greater than, or I guess we need it to be less than, let's say we don't want them to select more than 10 of anything. And we will say quantity cannot be greater than 10. or something like that. Okay, very good. And then let's make these fields required. Let's make this one required as well. Very good. And if we preview just this subform we are previewing right now, now we will be able to see so let's say if I want to search by a mouse, we can select the mouse. And let's say if I provide 11 validation, let's see if I submit. Okay, so quantity cannot be greater than 10, which is perfect. And if I select 5 and submit, we will be able to see in our line items table that this line item was created. So I selected the mouse and 5 of them. So this is already here. But of course, it's not connected to an order because I just submitted the subform and not the parent form. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this entry for now because it's meaningless. It's not connected to any order. But it's good to know that the subform is working. So we're going to exit preview and publish this subform. Very good. And we can close this tab as well and go back to our parent form, which is the order collection form. So now it's all connected to the subform. And here what we can do is this page is called select products page, and we can give some items here, add products and quantities, add product information, or select the products you need to add to the order below. Very good. And of course, you can design it the way you want and add the right labels. Okay, so last thing I want to do is before we get to the ending page, I'm going to add one more page called the review page, and we'll just call it review, pretty convenient. So what's going to happen is when the user has gone through the form, they've added their information and they've added the products, on this page, they will be able to review what exactly they have added and be able to edit before they hit the submit button. So let's take it for a spin again. So start, and let's say test user, test@user.com, next. And now we are able to select our products. So select. So now notice that this opened the subform, and here I can select my products, and let's select the monitor, and let's say I need 2 of those, submit. And notice that here it has added something, and it's still allowing me to select even more products. So if I select, it opens the subform again, and I can now select something else. So let's say I want to select a laptop, and I'm going to hit one quantity for that, hit submit. And now in our products page, we have 2 things added, and we're going to click on next. And this is where we can see the review. So we see that we have the name, the email, and the products that they have selected. So we click on edit here. It will bring us back to this page, but it's currently not allowing me to edit. And I think there's a setting that we need to do for us to be able to do that. So I'm going to exit preview and go back here and see what's going on. So if you go into line items and select this, I think we need to allow editing of records. So essentially, when we are allowing users to create the records, we also need to allow them to edit, because let's say they messed up the quantity or they messed up the product they wanted to select. So let's just make sure that the edit subform looks good. So it's the same form, just that it's going to allow us to edit the information. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to delete the submission ID. I'm going to make the product required, and I'm going to make the quantity required as well. And in the quantity, I'm going to add the same validation, which is the condition-based validation. And here the rule is going to be that the quantity has to be, if the quantity is greater than 10, we will show the error message that quantity cannot be greater than 10. Perfect. So let's go ahead and give it a heading as well, just so we know that it's the edit form, edit product information. Perfect. Preview. Okay, looks good. Exit preview, publish, and go back so we can close this tab. And here now we have the create record as well as the edit record. And let's see. So let's go back into preview mode for the parent form, start the order, test@testuser.com, next. So I'm just going to select one product this time. So let's just say keyboard 5, submit. And now notice that we have the option to edit. So if I click on edit, it's going to pull up that edit subform with the information pre-selected. So if I wanted to change the quantity, I can change the quantity, hit submit. I guess I messed up my condition. Quantity cannot be greater than 10. Okay, so we will leave it as is for now. And if we hit next, so if I click on edit, it's going to take me back to the product subform, where it's going to pull up all the all the products that I've added to the order, and it's going to allow me to edit. So now if I click on next and hit submit, and let's go over to Airtable and see what we got. So we got a couple of rogue entries because we were testing the form. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these. And as far as the order is concerned, if you go to order 12, which is the latest one that I did, if I open this, I added 5 mechanical keyboards, and then the customer name and customer email came through, and it's automatically linked. So the order is fully created. We have the name, email, the line items, the total, and everything is done by Fillout. I don't have to worry about connecting the two here. So the users just get to use a simple form and select all the information that they need. So we are going to go ahead and publish this. And let's just walk through one more. So we have the cover page, we have the customer information, the line items, which is selected to a subform, which is then connected to our cart or line item table in Airtable. And then finally, we have the review page. So that's how you can set up subforms in Fillout. Now, one thing I wanted to mention is that it's not just for creating order forms, this setup can be used for a variety of things. So imagine maybe you are a travel agency and you need to collect the traveler information, and you don't know ahead of time how many travelers are going to be in the group. So you can have a trip form, and then you can have a subform, which is to collect the traveler information, which will be in a junction table like this. And there, the user or the traveler or the head of the group can enter information for as many passengers as they need to have in the group. We don't know ahead of time it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 10, or how many. So they can use the subform and they can keep submitting it over and over. Just like that, let's say you are an insurance company and you need to onboard a family. You can send them the onboarding form. They can select the information in the main form, which is for the entire family. And then they can add family members using this junction table or the subform to add as many family members as they have. Now, again, ahead of time, you don't know how many family members they're going to have, so you cannot predict. But with the subform situation, you can let them add as many as they need to. So it's a pretty handy setup, and I hope the walkthrough was helpful. If so, of course, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. But otherwise, we're going to stop here for today, and I'll see you in the next video.